Additionally, we would like you to respect all of our speakers. If everyone could please rise, if you have a hat on, please remove your hat. Thank you very much. Heavenly Father, as we're still in the Easter season and approaching Pentecost, the Holy Spirit is here in this room with us. We thank you for all the members and guests that are present this evening. We thank you for President Trump, who with diligence, a steadfast heart, and a love for America continues to try to make America great. Help us to do our part to make America great. We thank you for all of our guest speakers that will be here this evening to shed light on what needs to be done here locally in the Lehigh Valley. And we continue to ask you to bless each and every one of our members, present and not present. Amen. Amen. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cross your fingers.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose harsh lights and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red their long came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Please be seated. All right, open remarks. So already I was questioned by one or two people what happened to Emily's voice on the robocall. Emily's mother on Easter was put into the hospital. She came home this past Sunday for home hospice. She died at about 5 o'clock. She was 84 years old. So she's at peace. And we've lost a lot of our members, some of our relatives. We've lost a lot of folks over the years. I always look at that flag, and I don't remember the wife's name, but that flag was given to me by one of our members. And I said, well, I don't know what I would use it for, and here we use it, so I always think of it. His name is Tom. Tom Gallagher, there you go. But if you could keep Emily in prayer and her family, so I would appreciate it. Her mother used to love to come to the meat raffle. She would buy tickets like crazy, so she's at peace. But many of our members have lost our parents and relatives, and we've lost a lot of members over the years. So we are a family here. Always remember that. So I always tell people if I stop telling stories, then you know it's serious. So I'm going to tell you two quick stories here. I'm going to tell you one about kids, because I'm always working with kids, whether it be in my magic shows or teaching swimming lessons. So recently I have this little boy, he's 5 years old, and this kid can swim up and down. So I told him, I said, in swimming there's something important, it's called glide, and I told him more importantly, we call it alignment. And I I said, do you want me to explain a line? He said, no, I'll Google it. I said, 9 years old, Google it. I said, I don't know, when I was young, we didn't have anything called Google. I mean, we looked it up in the what? Encyclopedia.
Yep.
Now, when I was his age, my family grew up poor. No R, poor. We didn't have an encyclopedia. But I remember asking my mom, you know, when I didn't know a word, I would say, Mom, how do you spell the following word? You know what she said to me? Look it up in the dictionary.
Yep.
And I would say to her, I don't know how to spell it. Well, I remember in St. Mary's in Elizabeth, New Jersey, we went to the Bronx Zoo, and I wanted to know about elephants. So it took me about 4 weeks. I looked in the dictionary under the letter L for elephants. And I'm paging through there, and 4 weeks I couldn't find it, and then in one of our other classes they were talking about pneumonia. I almost passed out looking for that word pneumonia. Anyway, that's dealing with kids, if you know kids. And then I was talking to Al. How many of you have ever done robocalls? Or not robocalls, calls for our candidates. If you've never done it, you have to be brave. So I used to be a committee person in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and I attended Catholics, but I would go to some of my friends' churches, you know, Baptist, Pentecostal. Anyway, so I was making calls for the Republican Party over there. And so I called this lady up that I knew her name, and I was acquainted with her, and she was a part-time Christian, because let me tell you, when I called her up and I said hello, she goes, who the blankety blank is this? And how did you get my blankety blank number? And I said, this is Brother Andrew from the church. And you know your religion when you say church. She said to me, praise the Lord, Brother Andrew. I think she forgot that she just cursed me out. But anyway, you have to have patience with people, and I think what we're put on this earth is to encourage one another and to keep going, whether you're dealing with the little ones or the elder ones. But thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for your support. I want to thank my board. I want to thank, one other thing. In March, we had our election of the board members, so I neglected to tell you, they did me the nuisance of re-nominating to be the board president, so I'm the board president again. And Jackie Arthur somewhere, where's Jackie? Jackie, could you stand? Jackie's our vice chairperson over there. Are the other board members here? The board members could stand, just in case you don't know, there's some other board members. I know Ben's here. And then our secretary, Jeanette's here, so thank you to our board, and thank you to each and every one. Joe, Tom, going back there, Franklin. All right, so real quick notice again, and I appreciate this, no literature should be placed on the tables without getting permission from one of the board members. Also, I mean, literally, every time we have a meeting, the day of the meeting, and I could show you on my phone, people are calling me, can I get 5 minutes, can I get permission? The answer is no. When we load this stuff on the computer, it's usually done a day or two before. It's not like sticking a piece of paper in a binder. There's some time that has to be done, because we load it both in an iPad and a laptop, so you have to see me before. And the other rule is you got to be a paid member. There's people that want to promote, and we have people that want to promote garage sales. I mean, that's not we're not in business for that. So unless you're a member, we don't even discuss your potential time at the mic or presenting anything. So just be patient and understanding about that. I think we always have the best interest of our Lehigh Valley and the country here in this organization. All right, when our speakers up here, we kindly ask you to give them your time and attention, undivided time and attention. If someone's speaking, just tap them in the shoulder and kindly tell them to, keep it quiet and step out in the hallway. Our membership and treasury reports is as follows. Our total members, regular and associate, 7,478. Our bank balance is $54,929.80. Our credit line is currently $24,000. Are there any first-time attendees here? If you're a first-time attendee, could you please stand up so we could give you a round of applause. That was first time attending. One of our coffee sponsors. All right. Our 50-50 raffle, Tom and Mojori in the back. They are selling 50-50 raffles. We always have a good prize, cash prize, so we encourage you at the break to go and buy a sheet of tickets there. And then we have our 100 ticket raffle. It's a $500 gift certificate. We sell 100 tickets. Melissa in the back, where it says Second Amendment, has those tickets. When we sell 100 tickets, we raffle it off. You get $500, in which you can use it at Relic Hunter, Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays, or A.F. Boyer. See Melissa. All right. If you are short on cash, you can go see Leslie or Jeanette at the credit card machine, and we have an opportunity to buy. We call them LV-MAGA chips because that's what they were made. Our official name, corporation name, is 912 Project Lehigh Valley. But with those chips, you can buy anything in the room. Okay, also, Joe Calantoni, one of our board members, helps me out to sell brownies, cannolis, and crumb cakes to help our scouts go to West Point. As I mentioned last month, our scouts were invited to attend both Navy and West Point. Unfortunately, it was the same weekend. So the boys said, let's go back to West Point. We're like royalty up there. This is the first time we've been there 7 years in a row, okay? It's so hard to get into that, but remember the following saying. Has anyone ever been in the Army? Anyone here a veteran for the Army? You have an Army? Thank you. All of that. An Army does not march on an empty stomach, so we are good at bringing those cadets goodies. I mean, I bring like literally 12 cases of tasty cakes, we bring them all kinds of goodies. And they love us. This was the first time we didn't have a cadet sponsor. Next year we have 3 cadet sponsors because here are some of the photos you can see. It's a very beautiful scenery there. This is their training facility up there in upstate New York. If you look over there, there's 2 pictures, the cadets speaking to some of our scouts, and there to the right, as you can see, those cadets, it's kind of hard to see, but they are young-looking guys. They're 18 to 22, and they're eating steak sandwiches, so they eat at our tents. Okay? They're fed, but they come and eat at our tents because we have meatballs and spaghetti, steak sandwiches, burgers, and of course, we have cannolis.
Of course.
And just so Joe Calantoni knows, our sponsor next year is a cadet from Italy, so she's a lady cadet, okay? And they're making the steak sandwiches, and these cadets are from all over the country, some from overseas, so they've never had a cheesesteak. So thank you for your support, and we do have one young man in our troop that is going to enter high school next year. His mindset is he's going to West Point, and I introduced him to our senator, and our senator who attended West Point said if when that time comes, he would be more than happy to assist him. All right, next up, thank you. Our Guns and Goodies raffle, we started it last month. We are a little bit behind, but we will have a mailing go out. We are trying to save money by not sending to every member. We are sending it to members who have returned, but we have tickets for sale. They are $20 a piece. And if you look at those tickets, okay, and I think I sent it in the email there, I believe. You have 5 handguns. You have Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays, Anson Belt and Buckle, U.S. Law Shield, Archery at the Glen, who's one of our sponsors. They're like about 2 miles away from here, and several restaurants. And then you have, for the ladies, you have Levant Jewelers, okay? $100 gift certificate. So I know the men won't buy that because if it's $100, most likely the woman says, yeah, you're gonna have to add some money on that. So, and then there's a $50 one. But you can get some jewelry repaired and stuff checked out. So they've also been one of our sponsors. Then if anyone likes golf, we have 4 passes for Green Pond Country Club. So we encourage you to buy tickets. I have them for sale, and if you sell 10 tickets, you get 1 free. As I mentioned, we have also the meat raffle, which is next Sunday, May 17th, here at Fearless Fire Company. The tickets are 3 for $5, or again, you can get 6 for $10. And you get to eat for free. There was sort of 50 prizes. If your ticket is drawn and you're number 50, you get ribeye. But they have all the beer and soda you can drink, the food, and I am your DJ, so we play some good music. Additionally, it is tentative, but our governor candidate, Stacey Garrett, you might hear, using the room upstairs from 5 to 7. We are trying to nail that down and encourage her to come early to meet some of the guests here at the meat raffle. So that's an opportunity for you. All right. Then we have U.S. Law Shield, who is our ongoing sponsor. I encourage everyone to make this investment. God forbid you ever need to use an attorney. If you have ever an incident, whether it be with a handgun, fist fight, or anything like that, they represent you from start to finish. All right, next up is our dear friend, Valerie Ferguson. Support the troops. Let's give Valerie a round of applause. Woohoo!
Hello? Okay. As many of you probably know, today is the National Day of Prayer. And at the end of this month, we all know it's Memorial Day, so that really makes us think that there's a lot of things to pray for. There isn't much for me to say this month about support the troops because we have this issue going on that we might go to war in the Middle East, but our dear president is fighting against it. So all the zip codes, all of them that I send to in that area are temporarily shut down. So I don't have my basket out tonight. So if a couple people wanted to give me money tonight, I said, no thank you, we'll hold off. We'll buy some meat raffles or donate in your baskets or something like that. But I thank you for all your support. What I do have is I have some extra flyers because I am sending to America. Yesterday I shipped 2 packages to Texas. Really, it's a sergeant who's on the Mexican border. So I'm still sending to America, but it's very slow. And actually, I kind of like the break right now because I was so busy for a couple of months. One day I got 40 names. But anyway, so our president's doing everything he can, so we need to pray for him. We need to pray for our neighbors that don't have money for the gas pump and they blame it on you because you're a Republican. I've been running into those people attacking me that I can't even walk away from them. So I put my head down and say, Jesus, help me, shut up, because I can't change their minds, so let me just smile. So that's what I really would like you to do is pray, and if you get some neighbors or you have a place that you can put my flyer, that would be great. But I want to tell you some good news. Some of you may know that I'm very, very close with 2 Gold Star parents in Williams Township where I live, and every year on Memorial Day, which I'm inviting all of you, the Allentown Area Corvette Club leaves the Bethlehem Cemetery and the parade, and we go through Bethlehem to Williams Township, and we plant flags on Christopher Seifert, who was the first soldier killed in the Iraq War in the state of Pennsylvania, and Joshua Klinger. They're both in my neighborhood, and I'm extremely close to the Seiferts. My husband and I helped raise 2 dogs for our veterans, and one was named Seifert. But this week, after 23 years of fighting, Christopher is going to be receiving the Purple Heart after. So it's going to happen May 16th. And so if any of you want to join, I know Andrew got involved one year, and we would meet you at Bethlehem, and you could follow along. So I thank you very much. Also, just in the hood, if any of you live near Parkland High School, I have a flyer. They're doing Flags for Unity. I understand it's gorgeous. I can't go the date, but it's Thursday the 21st all the way to Monday the 25th. And they're going to have like 7,000 flags all lit up. So those are the news. Thank you very much. God bless all of us. Don't forget to pray. Amen.
Friends of NRA, one of our members, Chuck Yeoman.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment and thank everyone. We have our annual banquet and fundraiser to support the grants that support the youth shooting sport programs throughout the valley here in eastern Pennsylvania. We had a great turnout and we had a great time. So all of you that came out and supported the event, whether it was buying a raffle ticket or coming out to the event, and whatever you did to help us, we really, really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing your support again next year. I know we have a winner out there. We were able to give away about 43 guns the other night, and Mo came through pretty well, you know. So thank you so much for all you do to support the Second Amendment and support the Lehigh Valley Friends of the NRA.
Okay, folks, do you think this upcoming November election is important?
Yes.
Do we have a slim margin in Congress?
Yes.
Do we currently have a congressman that is a Republican and a great congressman here in the Lehigh Valley?
Yes.
Without further ado, let us welcome our Congressman, the Honorable Ryan McKenzie, folks.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for that warm introduction. It's great to be able to join all of you. Love to always stop by and see so many good friends here at the Tea Party, or now Lehigh Valley MAGA. Let's give a big round of applause for that. I appreciate all the work that all of you do, and so many of you helped on the campaign in 2024, and to Andrew, Tom, all the volunteers that make events like this possible on a regular basis, we just want to say thank you for all that you do. We do have some things coming up. I wanted to be able to be here just to give you a little bit of a quick update on what's going on in Washington, what's going on here at home on the campaign trail, and thankfully, the timing worked out. We were supposed to be in session this week, but they flipped the session weeks because the King of England gave a speech to Congress last week. And, you know, British, there may be a little more left than we would like sometimes, but the president gave, I thought, the funniest remark when the King gave a speech. It was very well delivered, it was witty, it was very well received in Congress, and the president said, you know, he couldn't ever get the Democrats to stand for him, but certainly the King got them to stand, so we appreciate that. A moment of levity there in some serious work that we do in Washington. The other things that are going on in Washington, we do every week a number of bills that advance the president's agenda and what we campaigned on. And I want you to get this update. Now we have passed and signed into law over 100 of the president's executive orders. Okay? Over 100 of them out there. So there are lots of things out there, lots of smaller items that maybe you don't hear about on a regular basis, but I want you to know that every week while we're there in Washington, we're continuing to advance that agenda. Then the other two big things that we campaigned on, obviously, were around cost of living. So this tax season just passed. We saw the first time that one big beautiful bill was enacted into law and people got the returns. On average, people saw returns that were up over 10%. And we saw that improvement for individuals who work for overtime and tips. All of our seniors received a bigger deduction. Everybody got an increase in their standard deduction, increase in the child tax credit. So returning our taxpayers' money to individuals so that they can spend it best and keep up with prices was one of the big promises from the campaign trail that we delivered on this time, and people saw that in this most recent tax season. The final thing is, as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, we continue to work on border security and security right in our communities. Obviously, the Democrats have fought us tooth and nail about DHS funding, but we have now secured about 80% of that. And when we go back next week, what we are going to do is we are going to pass funding for ICE and the Border Patrol for 3 years. For 3 years. And we will not have to fight that battle for the rest of the Trump administration because that funding is going to be there. And so just wanted to give you those quick updates because some of them make the news, like the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the fight over DHS funding has certainly been in the news, but all of those other things that, again, every week when we're there in session, we go back on typically on Monday evening is the first round of votes. There are 2 or 3 votes on Monday night, then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there are more votes every single day, and we are, again, just continuing to advance the agenda that we campaigned on. Now on the campaign front, we have one of the top 5 most competitive races in the entire country coming up again here in 2026. And the reason for that is we defeated a Democratic incumbent, myself and all of you, with all of your help. We sent Susan Lyle packing. And that was something that came at a great cost. We spent a lot of time, a lot of effort. We ended up winning by 1%. The seat is just drawn in such a way, the Lehigh Valley is divided politically, that this is what they call an R+1. So it just leans ever so slightly in our favor in presidential years when everybody shows up to vote. So the big challenge that we have this time is we know the Democrats are fired up to impeach President Trump. They say it openly. They say every single time that they have the chance, if they get power back in Congress, they are going to do impeachment on day 1. Okay, so they're transparent about that. Then what we also see is that the candidates that are running against me in this district are all racing to the far left. On every single issue, they are going to be on the fringe because that is who they have to answer to in the base of their party. And I don't think it was ever any more clear than when there was a debate a couple weeks ago at Lafayette College. The student newspaper reported on a bunch of the questions, and time again it said they all agreed on this point, they all agreed on that point. And when the question came to funding for ICE, an organization that should be noted doesn't just do immigration enforcement, they do human trafficking cases, sex trafficking cases, they combat crime and drugs from gangs. Okay, they do all of that work as well. They were asked if they should defund and abolish ICE, and the student newspaper wrote and responded that every single one of them said yes to abolishing ICE. That's where they are, okay? So the contrast is going to be very clear. When we get to whoever comes out of this primary, the contrast is going to be clear, and they are going to have their base fired up to impeach President Trump, but we need to do our job and make sure that not only all of us, because I'm sure we're all going to go vote, but all of our friends, all of our family, everybody that came out in 2024, we want big turnout. We know the people are on our side. And so we need to get activated and engaged. We've been laying the groundwork, our campaign, for a year and a half, and now comes the time for our official campaign kickoff. And so on your table, take it with you tonight, is a flyer that was approved by Andrew. It is there, not only as a volunteer appreciation event, it's free. Everybody come out, enjoy some food, some good camaraderie. All of your conservative friends are going to be there. But also, we are going to launch into the 2026 general election. And we aren't going to be able to do it alone and without your help this time. Just like in 2024, we're going to need everybody on our side. And so this is the official kickoff. Take this home with you, mark it on your calendar, spread it around, tell all your friends, all your family. We have to get ready in 2024 for the battle for the future of our country, and we have to defeat the radical left all over again. So just want to say thank you for everything you've done. Look forward to working with you over the next 6 months, and enjoy the rest of the evening. God bless everybody. Take care. Thank you.
If I could just bring it to your attention, so at the tables, there are the buckets, and we are asking always for you to be as generous as you possibly can to cover our expenses, which includes renting this room, the technology that Tom Campion started, and I try to keep going, which is our robocalls, our text blasts, our MailChimp. I also like to thank Melissa for helping with all the communication behind the scenes, and Tom Campion, both of them helped me get that stuff out. And then we have other expenses, including insurance, things like that. So, again, we have operating expenses, so we appreciate your help at all times. Okay? So again, if you could put donations in the bucket. In addition, anyone that is willing and able to buy a guns and goodies ticket, and if you'd like to be a seller, see me afterwards. All right. And returning to the Lehigh Valley MAGA is our dear friend, Mr. Tom Campione. So Tom's going to, he has to present to us an opportunity to make some money.
Okay. So there's a lot of familiar faces out there. And I'd just like to say that I do miss you guys. Well, not all of you. Some of you, I can hear you already. Damn, what's he doing here? I thought we got rid of him. Kind of did. I'm back really just for this one presentation tonight. But, there we go. Okay. Tonight, what I plan to do is to introduce a business opportunity for this group. So, the first question you might ask is, well, why do we need a business opportunity at all? Well, because we really need the money. Yeah, there's $50,000, $54,000 or so in the bank account. But we've been losing money for years. And we really need to increase our revenue because we adopted a business plan this past January. And that plan calls for growing this organization, but the plan itself needs to be funded. And the plan creates revenue through a simple program of building our membership. But no one's really stepped up to take the lead and make that happen. Andrew's got way too much to do already to take that job on. So, this opportunity that I'm here to present would potentially fund the plan by allowing everyone to help build the organization's treasury. So I can hear some of you already. Get to it, Campione. What are you looking to sell us now? The deal is that I recently launched a new online business, and you guys in this room can help make money for Lehigh Valley MAGA by recommending this new business. What kind of business is it? Well, it is an automated daily wellness check-in service for seniors and others who live alone. Now that's a mouthful. And rather than try to explain it, I'll do it this way. How about this? Do you know any seniors who live alone? If you know a senior who lives alone, please raise your hand. Okay. How about people with disabilities? Do you know any who live alone? Now, people with disabilities might be, wheelchair bound, could be mental, could be Asperger's, autism, a lot of that these days. And a lot of young folks have been diagnosed as autistic, but they want to live an independent life and live on their own. How about young singles living alone or simply away from home? Anybody know any of those? Now, when I say with young singles, these might be college students living away from home. All these people, do their families worry about them? Yeah, you bet. Families can't call every day to find out, well, is Pop still alive? But this business that I'm talking about is a system that will call or text these people every day for them to check in. It's the basic idea of a wellness call, but rather than a human being calling, it's a machine that calls. And the service allows people to check in either by text or by phone call. To check in, once the machine calls them, if they've selected it, they want to check in by voice call, the machine will make that phone call to them and just ask them, to check in by pressing a key on the phone. That's all they have to do. If they've chosen text, and younger people are going to look to text, right? All I have to do is reply with an okay. And now they're marked as checked in for the day. If they don't respond to that check-in request, though, the system will try them up to 3 more times, 20 minutes apart. So that's over the course of about an hour and a quarter total. If, after a total of 4 tries and an hour and a quarter, they still haven't responded, the system then sends a text to everyone in their care circle list, their contact list, that they've submitted. That there may be a problem, we don't know. Maybe a phone is turned off, a ringer is turned off, a person's gone to sleep. But it may, so it may not be an issue, but it may be an issue. And if it is, then at least what we've done is we've alerted their contact list and said that, hey, there could be a problem here, you better get in touch with them and see what the story is. So, for this service, we're not the only people who do this, although we're one of the newer companies doing it, and one of the more modern who are doing it. But generally, people are going to pay $20 a month to receive these check-in calls. But what happens is, that gives their families peace of mind, knowing that everything's okay. So the $20 a month for most people is worth it. Now, how does this fit into LV-MAGA? Well, LV-MAGA would get a discount code from me that provides 15% off for the first 3 months. Okay, so you guys get a discount code. Great, what do you do with that? Well, the people you raise your hand about, you can talk with them about it, potentially. See if they're interested, and if they sign up for this service, I'll donate $5 a month to the LV-MAGA. It's that simple. At $20, you guys get 5. So, let's see, we've got 7,400, almost 7,500 members, well, between paid members and associates. If we get even just 100 people to sign up for this service, that's $500 a month. Not bad. Well, let's take a look at the bigger market, though. In the United States, there are 36 million single-person households. Think about that for a second. 36 million people who live alone. Of those 36 million, about 70% are vulnerable. When I say vulnerable, I mean old, or a woman who can't defend herself, someone with autism, right? People we talked about. So that's 25 million people in that vulnerable stage. If the LV-MAGA captured just 1/10,000th of the market, that'd be 2,500 people. At, let's see, $5 a month, that's $12,500 a month, $150,000 a year. That definitely funds our business plan, because that allows us to hire 3 people to run this organization. And ultimately, the only way this organization is going to survive is if we hire people to run it. Because, we've been running on volunteers for the longest time, and you burned me out, and you're about to burn out Andrew. So, what happens when he says, I've had enough? This group's gone, really. That's no lie. So, early next week, I think, well, there's a scheduled board meeting. I'm not sure if we'll have a board meeting or not, but I'll review this with the board, and the plan is at some point for me to send an email blast to everybody. We've got about 4,000 active email addresses, and we see if we get people to interested in doing this. We'll send you the discount code and instructions in detail for sure. So, questions?
If we have any questions, I have 2 of our board members that have microphones. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, and either Ben or Jackie will come around. Any questions, no, or concerns?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your attention. Oh, and before I leave, there's one last thing.
New to our organization, the 912 Project. Tom Campione came on many, many years ago when we were still at the Charleston, and he's been instrumental in making us from a bar microphone with no slides, with just basically a very small budget to an organization that's first class. Many of the speakers who have come here over the years have said, well, you guys are really above all the other organizations they go to. So thank you, Tom, for everything you have done, and continue on behind the scenes still help guide us to get accomplished. All right. Hold on a second. We're on the wrong slide. I'm not sure if this will work here. All right, so how many of you have heard, and I'm not sure I'm going to take the whole thing, let's see if this works. How many of you are interested in knowing when they keep saying, we have plenty of oil here in the United States, why are our gas prices so high? How many of you are confused about that? Raise your hands. How many of you know what a barrel, how many gallons are in a barrel of oil? Okay. So, my father did work for Exxon, so I have a little bit of an understanding. So I did some research and found some videos. So the thing is unfortunately, our environmental wackos do not let us build refineries. So in a nutshell, there are different types of oils that we produce. We produce what is called a very sweet, light type of crude oil that we cannot refine here in the United States. The oil that comes from Venezuela and some of our Middle East countries is a heavier crude, and that we can refine. So, this is a short video. I'll play a little bit of it, and then what I can do is I can put it up in the website so you can watch it more. But I think it'll help you defend.
We're closing the door, and we're drilling. And you keep us moving towards energy independence.
Our country must cut back its reliance on foreign oil.
So we're going to need oil for at least another decade.
We're going to need it. Based on how much politicians talk about oil and using oil reserves, I always kind of thought the U.S. was running out.
We've got about
35 years was old after the whole world.
That couldn't be more wrong. In just the 10 years after 2008, the U.S. went from a place with slowly dropping oil production to more than doubling its output and reclaiming its spot as the biggest oil producer in the world. But there's something peculiar. The U.S. is sending away nearly a third of its oil just to get it swapped out with oil from somewhere else. This is the story of America's wild oil revolution and why it still won't give the U.S. energy independence. This video is brought to you by Rewrite, but more on that a little later. To understand America's relationship with oil, let's start with a quick crash course. So for most of the last 150 years, the U.S. has been a good place to get oil. We've drilled almost all of it, and we also used the most oil in the world. But in the late 1930s, other countries, namely Saudi Arabia and a few other Middle Eastern countries, realized they also had tons of oil. So they started drilling like crazy. Around this time, the U.S. started importing a little bit of oil, but it still drills most of it itself. But America's ravenous demand for oil to fuel its planes, trains, and automobiles can't be contained. America's demand for oil starts significantly outpacing U.S. production. So, bringing the imports. Pretty quickly, the U.S. becomes increasingly reliant on foreign oil. But then in 1973, after the U.S. gave money to Israel, Saudi Arabia's enemy in the Yom Kippur War, they and other Arabian oil exporters were like, actually, no more oil. And imports slide. The U.S. doesn't have enough oil to make up for this loss, so there's just no oil for consuming. Empty gas pumps, no more road trips.
To be sure that there is enough oil to go around for the entire winter all over the country, it will be essential for all of us to live and work in lower temperatures.
The problem was so bad that President Nixon literally told businesses to stop working if it would save energy.
I am directing that the daytime temperatures in federal offices be reduced immediately to a level of between 65 and 68 degrees. And that means in this room too.
And with this, the U.S. really starts talking about this thing called energy independence. And the U.S. is crippling lack of it. To respond, Nixon bans oil exports from the U.S. and makes a plan to build 1,000 nuclear power plants by the year 2000. According to one estimate, if all of these nuclear power plants were actually built, the U.S. would be able to meet twice its energy demands in 2022 with no fossil fuel emissions from the production. But instead, there's 54. Anyway, in the meantime, the U.S. needs more oil because those gas engines aren't going to run themselves. But that's a little awkward because the U.S. still can't find that oil in its own soil. We started importing more oil from Canada, our pretty peaceful neighbor, but our oil habit still requires we bring in a bunch from the Middle East. It's in this context, slowly getting more oil from Canada, using a lot from OPEC countries, and not getting much here, that perfectly sets up a revolution. So as you can see, the line I'm on right now is going down. And a similar thing is happening with natural gas, the other big fuel source we use in America, that's collected largely the same way as oil. You'd think that it's going down because we're out of oil, but that's actually not true at all. The U.S. had and still has tons of oil. The problem was we couldn't get it. This is the Barnett Shale, with a giant natural gas reserve around Fort Worth, Texas. And in 1995, the U.S. government said it had just like a bunch of natural gas. But it was unconventional. See, there are two ways that the things we want tend to exist underground. Conventionally or unconventional.
The conventional oil wells were just, think about a big oil puddle underneath the ground. You're just tapping it like a straw and sucking it out. You still have plenty of wells like that, like Saudi Arabia, the Middle East. They basically have that kind of oil in plentiful, right? That's why it's super cheap.
But this Barnett Shale is not like that. It's made up of these big rocks called shale that have natural gas and some oil trapped inside of them. But the question is how to get in. People have kind of known the answer for a long time is fracturing the ground, or fracking. Even John Wilkes Booth, a month before he killed Abe Lincoln, was a fracker. But the problem with early fracking was it didn't always work super well. Like for John Wilkes Booth. He put some explosives into a well and he made a huge hole, but there wasn't a drop of oil left. So naturally, he left Pennsylvania and killed the president, I guess. See, this is the type of anger not getting oil can give to people, especially when they spend tons of money on it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think what I will do, out of respect to our featured speaker, is If this interests you, what I will do is I will email it to everyone. I think why it's important is because if you didn't know the answer why are our gas prices so high when they keep saying we have plenty of oil here in the United States, that's what I would encourage our Republican side is to be good in communicating so we can defend ourselves to our, our Democrat or the people that are on the left to understand this better. So I actually have 2 videos, so what I'm going to do is I will try to, within the next week or 2, email that to our MailChimp so you have those videos so you can watch them yourself. And it's simple. You do a little research, you find it on YouTube, and it makes you a better informed citizen and voter. So thank you for your attention. All right. All right. Next up is Michael Herzog in the audience at this time. Are you here? All right, so, Joe Bichot, are you still here? Joe? Joe, if you'd be kind enough to just explain this a little bit here.
As you know, impromptu, there's obviously Michael. We have 4 districts. Obviously, we have 3 incumbents already who are running, and then we have a couple of new state rep candidates in the other districts, which is going against Schlossberg and Schreier. We have Karen Lowry going against Schlossberg. We have Miriam Maldonado going against Schreier. And of course, Bob Smith, again, Robert Smith going into the 22nd district. So they're all on the ballot. Mike Herzog didn't get the petitions done, so he's going to do a write-in, and he's going to go against Jean McNeil, for any of you that are up in her area. So what does he need to do? He needs to get still, you needed 300 to get the petition. You still need to get the 300 votes now in the primary. So he's doing a write-in. So if anybody is in his district, 33, which is Jean McNeil's, it shows you up there the area, Whitehall, Hanover, Fountain Hill, Copley, Caddy, Bethlehem. Please, you can reach out to him. I know Joe Myers here. You can talk to Joe and volunteer to help to work the poll and hand out his slate card. So it's going to say write in. It's going to have got to circle the box and then write his name like Herzog did. And you'll be handing those out, or you'll be handing out if you're willing to volunteer to do that. At whatever precincts he needs. And he only needs to get to the 300, so, or a little bit above. So it's not like you got to be out there all day long at every precinct. We just got to hit the really strong Republican precincts, not like some totally Democrat precinct. So that's what he's going to be looking for help on. Obviously, we want to win the state rep seats. It's a big hill to climb in a different direction. But we have somebody, if we get him on, we got somebody competing against every single Democrat for state rep in Lehigh County. I hope North Lehigh County is doing the same thing. That's going to take a lot of money that they're going to have to spend to defend themselves. That's less money they're going to be able to use against Ryan McKenzie and our state Senate races as well. So that's just wanted to do that quick bit for him. And then since I'm up here, we have our golf tournament June 13th, Saturday. So go to LehighGOP.com. If you want to play golf, you can sign up. If you just want to do the luncheon, you can also just sign up on the luncheon. But go to LehighGOP.com to do that. And also on there, every candidate who's running in the general election is already on there as well. And you can learn more information on that. Is that it?
So Joe again is currently our Lehigh County chairperson. I believe Joe is retiring, right, or stepping aside? So thank you so much for all your time and attention. I know how difficult that is. And you look right on your ID. It tells you if you are on PA House 133. So if you're wearing your name tag, it tells you right there. And you don't have to be in that house seat to help out, okay? And we'd like to thank at this time Joe Mayer, one of our members here. Joe, thank you. He is our meeting sponsor for tonight, and we have one more quick presentation, then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to hear from Mr. Feather. So next up is the following, folks. not everything is black or white, so.
How's it going, folks? Is it on?
Hello? I appreciate you guys having us on. We run a platform called Not Everything's Black and White Podcast. You want to clip through? So what we do is, it's podcast, but we kind of have to shoehorn ourselves into that category. We like to think of it as more of a platform, alternative news source. So we work with all the candidates locally. I think last round we had almost every single school board candidate besides one of them. We just ran out of time leading up to the election. So we done interviews with Ryan McKenzie. So really the purpose of the platform is to have local candidates on, right? We discuss national issues, we like to have local candidates on, give them a platform. So we've done an interview with Stacey Garrity as well. One of the most important things right now, I think, is running in the midterms. Is Democrats, people complain about it. They don't do anything well, right? We all know that. They're kind of a little bit wackos. What they do is two things well: marketing and mechanics, and that's one thing we got to take over. At the local level, there's things that are traditional methods to run campaigns, right? We got yard signs, we got door knocking, things of that nature. However, the digital platform space is one that locally Democrats don't have anything to compete with us. So we utilize our platform to where you can knock on doors, right? You can only get so many in a day. Our platform is reaching about 16,000 viewers per month. That allows us to have a very unique experience to be in people's pockets, right? So when they pull out their phone, we're on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You want to go to the next slide? As you see, so when you get some time tonight, you should go see Scott's interview. It's great. We discuss a plethora of different topics. Scott's obviously going to make his way up there, but we did like a whole hour-long segment with him. We're going to go to the last one. So yeah, like that. This is our platforms, right? And it's super important when people think of commodities, right? We think of gold, silver, which moving forward, one of the most popular commodities and the most important commodities is attention. When you think of people like NFL players and stuff like that, why are they so important? Not because they put their bodies on the line or risk their health, right? If that was the case, your local fireman would get paid $1 million on a contract yearly. It's because of attention, right? And that's what we look to get to take that from the Democrats. I was sitting home on my couch a couple years ago and inspired by Joe and Barbara Tanteros, who some people have mentored me. And I told them, I got an idea, Joe. I want to start a political platform. They said, well, do it. So instead of sitting at home and complaining, right? They got blue hair. Everything's gay. They're so demonic. Right? That's what we do as conservatives. But what we need to do is play them and beat them at their own game. And this is what the platforms that we've put together. Like I said, the main thing tonight is we don't want anything from you. We just want your attention. We want you to share with your friends, share with your friends at church, and get it out there. Running into midterms, we're going to be running a very, very tight race, right? We know that. And Democrats are going to try harder than ever. People like McKenzie, we got to get them in the seat. People like Scott, we got to get them in the seats. Like our life depends on it. I feel so bad. Every year we say this. 2016 we said, this is the most important election ever. 2020 we said it again. And I really feel like that's where they're now. If they get back in office, they're going to come with vengeance. So before we wrap it up, I just want to let Rocco, this is my podcast.
What's going on, guys? I just want to hammer down some of the points John made. First, the reason we started this is we wanted to be an alternative news platform because I'm sure most of you agree, right? News is dying, news is fake, right? It's propaganda, right? I'm sure most people would agree with that now, right? It does a much better job of distorting than reporting the news, right? That's their goal. They essentially just claim that anything that supports a narrative and they call it news. So we're the opposite, right? Hence the name, right? Not everything's black and white. The name tells you what you'll get from us. We explore the gray areas. Okay? We give you context, we give you truth, and we're not biased at all. We dig deep into what's actually happening, and we sugarcoat nothing. Nothing we do is edited either. You can talk to Scott. Scott was on for an hour. Yeah. Nothing's edited. Because we want it to be authentic, right? Because that's what sells to the people. That's what the people want now, is to be authentic and transparent. Another reason we started this is transparency and being authentic for people running and for voters. Meaning this, how many of you have walked in a voting booth and voted for someone you knew nothing about? How many times, right? You never heard of them. right? You don't know what they support, what they change if they were in office, or you don't even know what they look like sometimes, right? So, I know I've done that many times. So our platform is meant to get rid of that. We feel like the person running should have a comfortable setting where they can express who they are, their background, what they changed in office, what they support, their accomplishments, why they wanted to run, along with a plethora of other topics.
Make sure they plan to lower taxes.
We feel the people running deserve a chance to show who they are, but even more importantly, we feel the voters deserve that, especially in local elections. Because these elections get half the attention as national, yet they affect your day-to-day much, much more. We try to hammer that all the time on the podcast, too. Whenever we have these guests on, you know, we try to always say that. Local elections, local elections. Your day-to-day is way more important than these national elections. And they get no attention whatsoever. So that's what we're trying to do, is give these local candidates a platform where they can express themselves. Telling your story, we want them to be able to tell their story and be authentic, okay? And that's what's going to get people to come out and vote for you. Lastly, just to give you guys some insight, our peak numbers, and I say this with some somber, was actually after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We were averaging 200 to 250,000 views a month just on our Instagram after that. That lasted for about 2 months. Ever since then, we've been averaging about 20K, 30K, 50K every 2 months. That's just on Instagram. Facebook's about another 30K every month. So, you know, so just think how many eyes these local candidates can get on them by just coming on our show and us sharing a few clips in these target areas that are needed for that. So if you guys have any questions, I mean, you can ask us questions whenever you want. We also have cards with all of our information on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave some cards with Andrew, and we got some stickers you guys can take with you. Please take and utilize it. And on the card in the back, there's a QR code so you can see us on all platforms. All right? Okay. Yes, real quick.
Wait for the mic. Wait for the mic.
I like this. There's a Q&A.
Two things, so you can be on, should be on Rumble too.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? I will say one thing is we didn't want to put anything we do behind a paywall. We fund this ourselves and continue to do that. That's important to me. So we're definitely exploring other options, but as of right now, all the platforms that we're on is just because I don't want to be behind a paywall. The purpose of it is to promote conservatism and have candidates on, not necessarily make revenue, right?
Yeah,
So,
I don't know if Rumble's paywall. I thought it was free also.
yeah, well, I know a lot on Rumble when you're platform on most people do it that way, but yeah, you're right. That's like core audience.
Yeah. Also, do you have Democratic candidates on and how they can justify?
They're too afraid. We've reached out to them.
We tried to get them on many times.
We will eventually.
People many times on there that are Democrats, and they
The ones locally are a little bit back, but yeah, at a later date, we definitely will do that. If you don't want to come on, let them know.
Real quickly, you said you have cards, but your cards have your Instagram,
Yeah, cards
everything
have-
that's up there, because you're blocking, we couldn't take a
Oh,
picture.
sorry. The cards have the QR code on. I'll leave them with Andrew. Is that okay? I'll leave them with
Okay, so it
Andrew.
doesn't have this, what's the QR code, will open up and it has all that.
Yeah, for anybody unfamiliar with this, it's like the menus that they have that everyone hated during COVID. Put your phone up to it, and you take a picture, and then the platform is that way.
All right. So can you listen to something that has already passed, like Scott Jennings?
Scott's up there, yeah.
Okay, so you just scroll looking for
Yeah,
it.
we went about an hour and 10 minutes of Scott's.
Okay, all right,
All right. Bob?
Okay, I think they're gonna hang out during their breaks, so if you have any questions, see these two fine young gentlemen. Also, we would like to thank them very much for being tonight. Our coffee sponsor. We'll go back on the screen there. So they're also a coffee sponsor. If anyone is interested in being a coffee sponsor, it is $125. We have next month covered, but you can go see Jeanette or Leslie over there. Thank you for being our coffee sponsor and getting the word out. All right. Also over here, Gabe is from an organization. So Gabe, ready to stand up there? If you can see Gabe, he's helping us with making sure that you're registered to vote, and he's working in the high schools. Okay, folks, at this time, we are going to take our break. When we come back, we are honored to have with us Michael Huller, who's going to talk to you and make you better informed about immigration. So, 10 minutes, it is 8:10, 8:20, come back, because you're going to love what Michael Huller has to share. See you shortly.
Scott? Okay, folks, I have 1 minute and Andrew already starts the clock. I'm Scott Janney, running for state senate in Senate District 18 against Lisa School. If you live in Bethlehem or Easton, or about 2/3 of the rest of Northampton County, I'm your candidate. I'm looking for volunteers to do a couple things. First of all, if you live on a busy street, I have some signs here. Second of all, if you're out doing poll breeding for any person, we're looking for people, if you're doing poll breeding, to hand out our literature as people leave. Okay? I'm running unopposed in the primary, and I want people to take those cards home, leave it in their car, leave it on the counter, so their husband or wife asks about it. But if you're doing that, Andrew right here is my political director, standing right there. Talk to him or talk to me, Scott at scottjanney.com, or Andrew at scottjanney.com. Thank you so much.
Okay, one more speaker here, Jeff, is going to talk to you real briefly about a potential event here in Lehigh Valley. Jeff?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Farmer, and I'm running the County Republican Committee for North Wales Township. Thank you for your time this evening. First of all, how many people in this room love a parade? All right. Well, a couple weeks ago, I was sitting thinking, there's something that we had a Tea Party did a couple of years ago that I remembered, and it was something that was really a great event. And some of you may have been a part of it. It was a parade of vehicles that started out over off Route 33, if you remember a few years back. It was a driving parade, flags, American flag, Trump flags, everything in between.
Oh, the honk and wave.
What's that?
Honk and wave.
Honk and wave.
Well, it was not a honk wave. This was an actual parade.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a massive parade. It covered, it went from 33 to 78 to 309 to 22, about 35 miles. So it was really incredible. And I thought to myself, why are we not doing something like this? Again, this is the 250th for our country, and we do need to rally support for our candidates that are running right now. Because unfortunately, some Republicans get very lazy. We're not part of that. We all vote, but there are a lot of people who just vote during major elections or presidential elections. That's it. But I thought to myself, this might be a really great event to be able to get out. People to get fired up. You really need to fire up the base to get out there and vote. I thought if we can at least have like a big parade again, I really need help. The one person can't do it. You can see that Andrew, I can see just how much this guy carries the weight of we have LV-MAGA, and all of you, everybody. I tell my wife it's really important that everybody does at least something. One thing means a lot to a community. And all I'm asking for is if anybody's interested in trying to help put this together, I would love some support. I'm not saying that all we need is maybe a dozen people, but I also need to understand how they pulled it off last time. That's where I think Andrew comes in to really help out. And if anybody wasn't part of that last parade a couple of years back, that occurred, I'd love to understand how it all came together, because it does cost money, coordination, police, there's so many things that you need to be considered. And I've done some research on it, and I just need help. So if anybody's interested in helping put this massive parade together, my goal is to get 250 vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, anything in between. I want to fly a flag, whether it's Trump flag, American flag, veterans flag. That is it. No other flags besides those. But anyway, I just want to say thank you for your time. If you're interested, I'm over here after Mike talks. You are up for something fantastic this evening. If you've never heard Mike speak, this man has got a depth of knowledge that you've never seen or ever heard. So we are very, very fortunate to have this gentleman here tonight. So thank you for your time, and God bless everyone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Michael Hunter.
Are familiar with me or my background, so I'll give you a quick thumbnail sketch and we'll get into the matter of immigration and the way you're being lied to by just about everybody. I started with the INS in 1971, believe it or not. Way back when. I was an immigration inspector assigned to Kennedy International Airport, did the job for 4 years, and realized even back then that nobody wanted the laws enforced. As an inspector, they wanted you to move a passenger a minute, and if you sent too many people to secondary for a more in-depth search, your bosses got upset. Limit the guy to 2 weeks. 2 weeks, he wants 2 minutes on the other side of the doors. He's wearing running shoes, okay? 2 weeks. I became an adjudicator. I did the marriage interviews like you've seen in the movies. It was a great learning experience because we were looking to find people who got married for fraud. The women got money, whoever the citizen or resident alien was, they got money, they got some sort of reward for marrying an alien that they weren't living with. It sounds harmless to some people. It's been a comedy source in the movies, but it undermines national security. Okay? 1975, I became a special agent. I rotated through all the squads within the investigations branch. I was the first INS agent assigned to the Unified Intelligence Division of the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and then I was promoted to senior special agent and assigned to the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. So I had desks at the FBI, DEA, ATF, U.S. Customs. I worked intimately, try that today, with the NYPD, the New York State Police. Every local police agency worked closely with us for good reasons, and I'll get to that momentarily. My first fraud case, way back when, 1976, an Israeli kid came into the United States with an altered visa that said that he could come here for 2 visits and that the year of expiration had not yet passed. In reality, he had altered the visa. It had been a single entry visa, the year had passed. They altered it. Somebody did it for him, or he did it himself. When he went into the inspections booth, the inspector spotted it under the black light. He was taken into custody, and my job was to interview him. He was already in the lockup. This is the first time that I was able to do something without a senior agent next to me. Because normally when you're a new guy, for a full year, you have another agent with you who's experienced, they evaluate you, they train you, and they try to keep you out of trouble. So they said to me, it's your time to take this guy, interview him, see what you can come up with. When I ran upstairs to the detention facility, it reminded me the day I first soloed an airplane. You know, I was all excited. Joe Bashad could certainly relate to that. I was all excited. I'm doing this on my own, big time. And the kid was very polite, very soft-spoken, great physical shape. Nothing to see here. But he kept calling Israel Palestine. I said, oh, that's not right. He kept, and then he was from the West Bank where we knew there was a large Palestinian population. And all the time we're speaking and communicating perfectly. When I get to the question of what branch of the Israeli military did you serve in, because every Israeli citizen has to serve in the military. If they are handicapped, they will put them in a uniform, in their wheelchair, and have them answer the phone. But everybody has to serve the country, which I think is a wonderful idea. So when I asked him about the military, I don't understand it. So I brought a translator in. Everything was going great in Hebrew. But again, when we get to the question about the military service, I don't understand. So she flipped to Arabic. She spoke both languages. And that was it. We had to scrape them off the ceiling. And one of the old timers said to me, there's something wrong with this guy. Maybe you should call the Israeli consulate. So I did. And I got the consul general on the phone, made sure he had my phone number, and he kept telling me, this can't be a big deal. He's a young guy. We're surrounded by enemies. You're making too much of it. So I insulted the guy, and not because I wanted to start a war between our countries, certainly, but I wanted him to think carefully about why he was blowing me off. Well, 15 minutes later, he called me back. He said, my security people want to see this kid. So we came out and talked to them. They came out and talked to him. And while they were questioning him, I noticed his shirt didn't fit properly. And I'm thinking, what's that about? So I had him take off his shirt. Those days, they weren't wearing the orange jumpsuits. They wore their street clothing. The reason the shirt didn't fit was there was a pocket sewn inside the shirt. In the pocket was a piece of paper with Arabic writing in a diagram. So I handed it to the Israelis and I said, I can't read this, I bet you can. And they almost fell over. They said, you know what this is? It's a schematic of our oil refinery. It's a plan to blow it up. Oh. This 24-year-old kid was here to get the money to buy the explosives. Called my bosses. They notified the FBI. The Israelis notified their headquarters. We worked on this case. I was allowed to keep the case, which was wonderful. One of my bosses said, it's your choice. Normally, this is something we give to somebody with 20 years on the job, not a year as an agent. But if you found it, we'll let you keep it if you want it. It's like asking, do I want a Ferrari? Are you kidding? So we worked together, and after a couple of months, he finally admitted what he was up to, why he was here, and the Israeli National Police, 1 week before the attack was supposed to take place, rounded up 6 would-be terrorists in Israel. From that day on, as you might imagine, I had a wonderful working relationship with the Israelis. I'm told I was the only American law enforcement official who could not only walk through their consulate without an escort, but with my firearm. Over the years, I made many arrests with them helping. They would send dossiers to the United States of their citizens committing crimes in our country. Their police officers came up to DEA intelligence. We went up against an Israeli drug trafficking organization. They provided the translators. They told me about an Israeli citizen who killed a Palestinian woman. They were desperate to find her. I found them using motor vehicle information. That was then. Today, New York State will not provide that information to immigration law enforcement. Stop and think about the enormity of that. We sent this guy home. He was found guilty, given a lengthy prison sentence. I believe it was something on the order of 20 years. And I hope it gave the family of the woman they killed a level of closure. We couldn't bring the woman back, but at least they knew that we took their loss very seriously. And that brings me to where we are today. We are in a situation today that I never could have imagined. Our immigration laws are designed very simply to protect public health, public safety, national security, and the jobs and wages of American workers. I want to know how anybody can be opposed to laws that have that as the goal. It's not about... This is not about race, religion, ethnicity, nothing like that. If you go to Title 8, United States Code, Section 1182, it enumerates the categories of aliens who are inadmissible. Not a single word about what I call trivial issues. This is about aliens who have dangerous communicable diseases, aliens who are severely mentally ill, aliens who are criminals, terrorists, spies, fugitives from justice, prior deportees, aliens who, if they work, will displace American workers and drive down wages. That's what the law is about. But the problem that we have is that the politicians see things from a very different way. They are looking for campaign contributions. That's another word for bribe. Think about it. I couldn't take a cup of coffee. You folks were very nice to give me a glass of soda. If this was an event where I was still an agent and I took that glass of soda, they would open an investigation with internal investigations. Think about that. I got a police medal from the government of Japan for helping them with the case. Before I could take the medal home, and it very proudly sits on my bookcase in my home office, my boss had to determine that it wasn't made of materials worth more than $35. If they thought it was $40, it would have been sent to headquarters, they would have hung it on the wall in Washington. Think about that. Nancy Pelosi's worth what, $500 million? Their salaries are very close to what agents earn. In all my life, I've met so many agents from every agency. I don't know anybody who's worth $500 million to carry that badge. What are we doing? What are we doing? Jimmy Carter started nonsense when he said, we will no longer refer to illegal aliens as illegal aliens, we're going to call them undocumented immigrants. The term alien is a legal term. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 101, we define an alien, and this is really shocking, any person not a citizen or national of the United States, period, full stop. Where's the insult? This is not a term that denigrates anybody. It's a term that provides clarity, and when you're a swindler or a con artist, the last thing you want is clarity. Bingo. This is a smokescreen. If you want to know what we're dealing with, read George Orwell's 1984. It's the playbook that we're living through right now. But while I talk about Orwell, he had an interesting statement. He said, in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. So I guess I'm committing a revolutionary act today, folks. Think about that. He also said political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable to give an appearance of solidity to pure wit. Isn't that the case? Yep. And both parties have done this. Jimmy Carter told immigration agents, don't arrest any illegal aliens during the census, they need to be counted. Why? Gerrymandering the congressional seats and the electoral votes. And then along came Ronald Reagan, another disaster, sorry to tell you. I know he's everyone's hero, but not mine. He gave us the first amnesty. Didn't hire more agents, okay? Gave us the visa waiver program, removed a very important layer of security that could protect airlines and America. Took that away. And this is something no one talks about. Normally, we can share files, immigration files, with other law enforcement agencies. You know how many times detectives would come to us, or the U.S. Marshals, or the FBI, we're looking for Joe Smith, he's a citizen of France, he committed a bank robbery, they're looking for him, and we would open up the immigration file and give them access to the file. If he was a naturalized citizen, they would have access to that for law enforcement purposes. Not the amnesty file. Good old Ronnie said, nope. If you show any other agency, for any reason, any part of the amnesty file, you are committing a felony and we will indict you and prosecute you. This was an open invitation to fraud. I provided testimony to the 9/11 Commission. Immigration fraud was identified as the key method of entry and embedding for the terrorists. The first time I testified before Congress was May 20th, 1997. 4.5 years prior to 9/11. And that hearing was convened because of the two terror attacks carried out in '93. The shooting at the CIA by Kansi, a Pakistani national, who bought into a courier van service. By the way, almost every terrorist uses motor vehicles one way or another or multiple ways. Meanwhile, we're giving illegal aliens whose identities can't be verified driver's licenses. We put up barriers against car bombs and truck bombs, but we have no clue as to who's driving the vehicles. Stop and think about that. Nearly as many people die every year because of car accidents as are killed by firearms. In both cases, more than 40,000 annually. I can't imagine the Democrats, well, maybe they would give the illegal aliens carry permits. They sure as hell don't want Americans to have carry permits. I testified before the New York State Senate on the issue of driver's licenses for illegal aliens. This is when Governor Spitzer was running the show, the guy that got jammed up with the hookers. Goodness gracious, the sheriff of Wall Street, for sure, as he was pulling up his pants. So, I said, you know, the key argument here is, well, the illegal aliens are going to drive anyway. It's amazing to me that legislators would blithely ignore people violating the law. If you don't care if people are going to follow the law, why waste your time writing laws? Do I make any sense to me? I like to twist things sideways. I always love to ask questions, and being of the Jewish faith, you know, Jews answer questions with another question, so I guess I'm genetically predisposed. But I said, how about if we take this idea that when you give illegal aliens driver's licenses, they will drive more safely, and they can get insurance. Wow, what a wonderful idea. How about if we give convicted felons carry permits and firearm training? If we can improve their accuracy, they'd be much less likely to hit innocent bystanders during the commission of a violent crime. And maybe we can convince them to use trigger locks between drive-bys and bank robberies. The Democrats got up and walked out. It looked like a fire drill. I was supposed to get a copy of the videotape, but it disappeared along with some other videotapes in the history of our government. This is insanity. Now, I want you to think about something. By the way, I did something else. I'm always a troublemaker. It's just in my nature. I can almost never get prosecutors to prosecute illegal aliens who were deported and came back illegally. What was the excuse? It's only a 2-year felony. So I sat around with my buddies and I said, you know what? Let's make it a 20-year felony. They said, what do you mean less? You got a mouse in your pocket? Who's we? We don't do that. We enforce the law. We don't write them. I said, I'm going to write a law. And they said, you're nuts. I said, well, my wife would probably agree with you, but I think it's something that's doable and worthwhile doing. So I approached Senator D'Amato, told him we need to make this a crime that carries a 20-year jail sentence if you're a criminal alien. Dishwashers, farm workers, 2 years, great. If you're a murderer, rapist, drug dealer, gun runner, 20 years max. Make it clear, you come back, we're gonna drop a stake on your head. We don't want you back. Don't let the door hit you on the backside on the way out. So I convinced them out of 3 things. Number 1, make it a 20-year felony for criminal aliens, a crime of reentry after deportation, Title 8 of the United States Code Section 1326. Of course, you're not going to remember it, but just telling you it's standing law. And I want you to realize that it is law, because how many times have we heard this ridiculous expression from the blackies? No one's above the law.
Bingo.
No one's above the law. Well, I'm citing law, okay? These are laws on the books, and they've been on the books since 1952. Right? Meanwhile, and then I said, why do we hold deportation hearings in the jails? You have these people sitting in jail for 22 years because they committed a murder and a rape and an arson, and then when they come out, we're going to start to deport them? That's crazy. Now we've got to figure out a place where to hold on to them, or we release them and they kill more people and do more damage. Get them deported within their first year of incarceration. I looked for solutions. I was going to be an engineer. My parents tragically died when I was a kid in college. They both had cancer. So my plans went a little differently. 2 of my kids are engineers. In fact, they're living my dream. But the point is, engineers fix things, lawyers make things more complicated for no reason, right? And I said, so you get them deported, you put their rear ends on an airplane, you wait 5 lines, if they come back, the reentry law kicks in. And I said, and we need to prioritize criminal aliens over non-criminal. Makes sense, okay? We got the law changed. I made the first arrest in New York with a Dominican drug dealer who came back after he was deported. Spoke great English. He lost his green card because of drug convictions and firearms convictions. So when I picked him up in the jail, he said to me, "Oh, you're taking me to the airplane." I said, "Nope." I said, "There's another hotel in your future that has bars." He told me I was a liar. So I went to his sentencing. He got 5 years for unlawful reentry. And I walked up to him in the courtroom. I said to the judge, "May I approach? Were you a case agent?" He said, "Sure, have at it." And I looked at him and I said, "So, did I lie?" And then I pointed at him and I said, "Make believe you're having a nice day." He literally cried. The guy was a dirtbag, okay? So what are we doing now? What are we doing now? I'm very proud that we got the laws changed. So when Ronald Reagan did what he did, which created a real problem for us, and he was also behind the diversity visa signed into law by George Herbert Walker Bush. What are we doing? And then along came Bill Clinton, and he ran 1.1 million aliens through the citizenship process without even getting fingerprints back. So one of my buddies, I convinced him to testify before Congress. I was working with members of Congress, and he was the head of investigations in Dallas. And when he called it the Jiffy Lube process, he went back to work. When he went back to Texas, he was fired. To tell you the truth, Revolutionary Act. So Lamar Smith stepped up. He was chairman of the Immigration Subcommittee. He kept his job, but he was no longer in management, even though he has more awards than anybody I ever met on the job. So then we come to George W. Bush. The way he created the Department of Homeland Security was beyond outrageous. Beyond outrageous. They were never supposed to split immigration enforcement, CBP, Customs and Border Protection, and ICE. They were never supposed to fold in other agencies, but he did. And he didn't hire more agents. After the 9/11 Commission, to which I provided testimony, made it abundantly clear that only because of immigration failures were we attacked multiple times by foreign terrorists. We failed to lock the door. The way I like to describe the role of immigration, think of the men and women in the armed forces. They have a common shared mission. And what is that mission? It's to keep the enemies of America as far from our shores as possible. Joe, I think you will agree with me. Okay? Guess who gets that assignment up close and in person? The men and women of the Border Patrol and ICE. The Border Patrol and ICE. That's how serious this is. And in fact, it was Sheila Jackson Lee who called me to testify at a hearing, I don't know if you guys remember, in March of 2002, it was discovered to everybody's horror that 2 of the dead terrorists, Mohammed Atta and Marwan al-Shahidi, had been granted authorization, you're going to love this, to go to flight school. 6 months after the attack. They were dead, the world knew they were terrorists, my screwed up agency, And it was Sheila Jackson Lee, with concurrence from James Sensenbrenner, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, who had me testify at that hearing. Sheila Jackson Lee was on target with us until she went off the rails. In 2005, I testified, and Sheila was there, and it was about resources for immigration. So the Congress had given George W. Bush enough money to hire 800 new special agents for ICE. Not nearly enough. But he cut the 800 to 143. They gave him enough money to get I believe the number was 8,000 detention beds. He cut that number to just over 1,700. Sheila Jackson Lee, during the hearing, said, "What are you doing, Mr. President? We need to lock these people up. They're a threat to our country. You're just teasing us. That's what this must be. You can't be serious." And it was the Republicans who repeatedly called me to testify to provide a counterpoint to George W. I was told W used to scream obscenities every time I went before Congress, or every time I was on Blue Jobs. That was a regular on Blue show over CNN. Didn't do us any favors. And then along comes Obama. And Obama gave us a disease. The disease was called Mayorkas. I still haven't found the vaccine for it.
Give him time.
So Mayorkas and ABC News covered this. And Chuck Grassley, the senator, who in fact invited me to my last Senate hearing in 2013, they both went crazy because the FBI had gone to Mayorkas and said, "You can't approve these visas because they relate to people from Iran. We believe they're part of Hezbollah. We believe they're terrorists." And he said, "Okay, approved." There was a woman running the San Francisco Service Center doing all the visas. She reached out to me because I was doing tons of TV and radio. In those days, I was averaging between 20 and 25 TV and radio appearances a month. It was insane. So people knew who I was. And she reached out and said, "I'm suing the agency. They demoted me. I'm working out of my living room because I refused to approve visas that legally could never be approved. They were asking me to commit a felony." Guess what happened? It continued. And then Mayorkas went from the head of Citizenship and Immigration Services to being the head of DHS, creating what I call the Department of Homeland Surrender. Right? How does that happen? Then you have Biden opening up the border. Everyone called it the migrant caravan. Really what it was a gravy train. Think of who's getting rich. Okay? I want you to think about this. Number one, the immigration lawyers, and they're on both sides of the aisle. Number two, the NGOs, and we see what's going on with that. And it's even worse than anybody could have imagined. I've been to Minneapolis. I was there 15 years ago, spent a week with the state senator doing ride-alongs with the sheriffs. They were enthusiastic about immigration. Poof. Okay, that went away. So you look at all that nonsense. You have these schools bringing in an unlimited supply of foreign students. How do you think China wound up with all the engineers they now have building a military that they threaten us with? We educated them, but it got worse. We gave them optional practical training. Has anyone heard of the expression 1,000 grains of sand? The idea is that China tells their people, "You're going to go to America. You're going to get a job in an airplane factory." Now, we don't expect you to bring us the blueprint for the F-22. That's difficult. You get us the landing gear. You get us the control surfaces. You get us the avionics package, and so forth. So when they get all these pieces back, these 1,000 grains of sand, they recreate our airplanes. They recreate our ships. They recreate our weaponry. Educated here in the United States. And while they're here, they're spying on the kids that are going to school with them, because there's actually a Chinese police office in Manhattan. They're around the country, holding them accountable. You had Iran trying to kidnap that woman, Ahmadinejad, because she's a dissident. I'm from Brooklyn. They tried 3 times in Brooklyn to kidnap her, to send her back to Iran, where they would kill or torture her. Or perhaps torture her and then kill her. Although the Iranians are that stupid, they might get it backwards. Think of what we're talking about. And so, immigration has always been defunded. New York City on 9/11 had more than 35,000 police officers just to protect the 5 boroughs of the city of New York. It would almost qualify as a small army. I had the privilege of working with them to great. Couldn't do that anymore. I had a desk at a precinct. Think about that. That's how close we were. But But the point is, on 9/11, guess how many immigration agents were on duty for the whole United States of America? Less than 10% of the number of cops just in New York City. Somewhere under 3,000. Who have to do fraud investigations, go after employers of illegal aliens, look for criminal aliens, participate in task forces like I did, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, the Gang Task Force. So how thinly can we spread this? This was never supposed to work. It was a smokescreen to fool you, me, and everybody else, and both parties are all in, and I want you to realize that. The idea, I'm going to vote for an R, you have Lawler, I call it lawless, and wants an amnesty program. I wrote not an op-ed, because actually the Washington Times agreed with me, but they wanted me to do an article for them about the dangers of what they call comprehensive immigration reform. So I compared the hearings, and I testified before several hearings on that. I compared the hearings with the countdown to the launch of Space Shuttle Challenger. The countdown is for the experts to weigh in as to whether they should go forward with the launch. The hearings for the experts to weigh in whether they should go forward with legislation. And I said, we need to give this piece of legislative detritus a more honest name. Forget comprehensive immigration reform. I try to be as subtle as a sledgehammer. I said, why don't we call it the terrorist assistance and facilitation? Quoted me from the floor of the U.S. Senate on 3 separate occasions with attribution, and then sent me a certificate commemorating it. I know he had a falling out with Trump. It broke my heart. Not that he was fired. He's the president. We should have moved him over to head up Homeland Security. It would have been ideal. Jeff had actually created a subcommittee in the Senate called Immigration and the American Family or the American Worker. To that effect. He was terrific. I was with him in Florida. I used to write for Front Page Magazine. We did a panel discussion, myself, Senator Sessions, Louis Gohmert, and another congressman by the name of John Fleming back in 2014. But he was eviscerated by President Trump, and he was a bitter pill for me to swallow. This was the guy who first supported his run to the presidency. You didn't have to politically kill the poor guy. But we needed him back in the Senate because he was terrific. He was a national treasure. And my friend that went and testified, by the way, used to work with him closely because prior to going to Dallas, he ran the office in Atlanta, and Atlanta worked with Alabama and 2 other states in the area. And everybody gave Sessions on a scale of 1 to 10 and 12. What are you doing? Now, I want to be clear. Somebody's talking about communication skills. My degree is in communications, arts, and sciences. I call it my BA and BS. But there's nothing more important than effective communication. You can have the best idea in the world. If you can't communicate, you're screwed. It's like having a Ferrari with an empty gas tank. It's not going anywhere. Okay? When I hear people use language, it curls my toes. Why do you call somebody a bleeding heart liberal? I mean, I just want you to, everyone says it. What does it mean? And what's the imagery that it conjures up to the people who disagree with you? Have we turned compassion into a weakness? Bleeding heart. Wow. I want my friends to be nasty SOBs. What do you mean you're kind? No. And by the way, most illegal aliens aren't their enemies. So when Donald Trump came out and said there's a lot of bad hombres out there, I almost fell out of my chair. Because that feeds the narrative that this is about brown skin, and it's not. It's not. There's a lot of bad people out there. Sure. Human nature is universal. Every race, religion, ethnicity has the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know, I found most of them, okay? But why do we use language? And why do we call liberals liberals? Somebody said, about who was playing which game. They are getting us to define who they are, and it's a lie. I'm a liberal. I believe in the First Amendment. I was going to teach debate on the college level. They never lost a debate. I used to argue bail to the U.S. attorney. Normally the agent doesn't do that, but I did because nobody got bail. Okay? So, what are we doing? Let's look at the language and understand how it's not pushing the ball down the field where our adversaries are concerned. And our neighbors aren't our enemy. They are Americans who are just as, entitled to their opinions, but we need to modify their opinions with the truth, the facts, morality, and the law. The facts, everything is on our side. That's why they're shutting down debates. I did debates at Yale Law School. Columbia School of Graduate School of Journalism, Columbia Law, Central Washington University outside Seattle, Chapman Law in California, NYU. It was great. We would go out to dinner afterwards. Try that now. They'll poison your food. This isn't what democracy looks like, and it sure as hell isn't what being a liberal is. So when you say, hook the lids, by the way, don't do it that way. It's like what we did in World War II with the Nazis and the Japanese, and we dehumanized. They're our neighbors. They disagree. Find out why they disagree. My mother gave me very sage advice. Brilliant woman. She said, when you have a fight with your friend, before you go to battle stations and ruin a relationship, sit down by yourself and put yourself in the other person's shoes. And ask yourself, did you say or do something that if it was done to you would piss you off? Could you imagine better advice than that? See, people think they're being just. What you saw in Minneapolis was a train wreck, and Trump should have known better than to send the Border Patrol there and announce he was coming before we went. And say he was going because it's a blue state. It's a blue state. I mean, this is about politics? No, it's a sanctuary state. That one word, how much does it change what you're hearing? It's a blue state. Oh, that political hack, screw him. It's a sanctuary state that violates the law. Title 8, United States Code, Section 1324. Aiding, abetting, encouraging, inducing, harboring, transporting. Isn't that what they're doing? It's a felony. Say it. Take out the 9/11 Commission report. I want to read something to you. There was the 9/11 Commission report, and then there was the 9/11 Commission staff report on terrorist travel. The staff, and I knew some of the staff members, I worked closely with them, realized that immigration, as much as the 9/11 Commission hammered immigration, they thought it didn't even go far enough, so they wrote an entire book, an entire report. The 9/11 hijackers, it was the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and how they traveled. So here's the beginning, the very beginning. Listen to this carefully. It is perhaps obvious to state that terrorists cannot plan and carry out attacks in the United States if they're unable to enter the country. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. Yet prior to September 11th, while there were efforts to enhance border security, no agency of the U.S. government thought of border security as a tool in the counterterrorism arsenal. Indeed, even after 19 hijackers demonstrated the relative ease of obtaining a U.S. visa and gaining admission into the United States, border security still is not considered a cornerstone of national security policy. Think about that. We believe, for the reasons we discussed in the following pages, that it must be waived. One, and then they said Congress gave the Commission, Congress, the mandate to study, evaluate, and report on immigration, non-immigrant visas, and border security as they apply to 9/11. Congress. The same Congress on the left now saying, and you have law who wants to provide amnesty. Do you realize how insane that is? Then you have Luna in Florida. Lunatic and lawless. What a dynamic duo. We're going to give people amnesty. That way we deal with the fact that we can't arrest them all. So I like to ask people, going back to my Jewish tradition of asking, what do the police do with the drunk drivers they don't catch? Nothing. What do they do with the shoplifters who don't get caught? Nothing. You grab as many as you can. When you find them, you make them pay for it. You publicize it as a deterrent, and we move on. No law gets enforced more than maybe 2 or 3%. So we can't arrest 11 million. Well, now we're up to what, 30, 40 million? So you're going to give people identity documents without the ability to interview them, let alone the ability to conduct a field investigation. We're talking millions of people. Millions of people. Maybe 3 or 4 times the population of New York City. Lots of luck. By the way, how big is the U.S. border? I'll tell you, it's a number you're going to be amazed at. Well, the other question that comes with that is how many border states are there? Every state is a border state.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why. You've got the southern border, which got all the publicity, which made it easy for the other side to claim this is about race. The Canadian border is twice as long as the southern border. And guess what we've just left out? 95,000 miles of coastline. Okay? How many of those boats were blown out of the water, headed our way? The Golden Venture, we called it the Golden Misadventure of the Chinese ship that came ashore on the Rockaways. And those are the ones we caught. Seaport is a big deal. I was actually a Marine Intelligence officer in my office for about 3 years doing boardings with the Coast Guard and U.S. Customs. We were separate agencies back then. So what are we doing? Oh, we're going to get more Border Patrol. I'm sorry. They do an important job, but they're not the solution. Interior enforcement is the key. Interior enforcement. Okay? So now that I've talked about interior enforcement, we're going to continue to read a little bit and you'll see where interior enforcement comes in according to the 9/11 Commission. What I want to know is why President Trump, why Vice President Vance, why every member of DHS doesn't come to news conferences with one piece of equipment. A copy of the 9/11 Commission report, slam that thing down on the table, and read from it every damn time the way that they read from the Bible when you go to church or a synagogue. Because that is the Bible that's supposed to keep us alive. What do you think of that for a novel idea? When was the last time you heard President Trump say, the terrorists, look at what the Commission report said? Has anyone even referenced the 9/11 Commission? No. We're going after the worst of the worst. Okay, I told D'Amato to do that. But you know why you have to arrest the ones that don't have no histories? Number one, you don't know if they're criminals or not. It's not that easy. You don't just run on TV, you know, they solve a crime in 38 minutes. Wow. Not in the real world. Number two, the impact of all these people on the country is staggering. Think about this. 70% of the country has a drought right now. Let's say Biden allowed in 20 million, it's probably higher, but let's play with that number. 20 million people, we're having a drought. How much water do 20 million people consume every day, 24/7? Well, I read reports that say we need about 100 gallons of water per day per person. 2 billion gallons. Wow. Electricity, housing. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that it costs 20 to 40% more to educate kids who can't speak, read, or write English. New York City spends over $40,000 per pupil. And then you have the other side saying, hey, wait a minute, these immigrants, they pay taxes. On what? If they're working off the boats, no. They maybe pay sales tax on their work shoes, that's about it. And even if they're on the books, what tax bracket are you in if you claim 4 people and you're making $35,000 a year? Well, you're going to get food stamps, housing subsidies, hospital costs. I'm very lucky, and a little plug here. Go for your screening. I just had a 2-year battle with colon cancer, not knowing when I'm okay. I was told I'm cancer-free. I got to keep going for checkups. But the hospital was overflowing. Think about that. So you look at all of this, and then there's a number that Trump should be talking about. It's the money being wired out of the country, something known as remittances. Anybody hear about remittances? Do you know how much money was wired out of the United States last year? Way, way too much. $400 billion. Now, when Americans lose their jobs or suffer wage suppression, guess what happens? They qualify for safety net programs, not because they're at fault, but because our government shafted them. So now here's a cute story. Who created the Immigration and Naturalization Service? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1933, part of the New Deal. So you have Jeffries, we need a New Deal. Yeah, we do. Go back to the fact that the New Deal created the Immigration Service, which created America's middle class. What do you think of that? Because FDR said no American should have to compete with a foreign worker for his job. What a novel thought. Why isn't anybody in the Republican Party calling out Franklin Roosevelt, saying, hey, think about that. We created the middle class by making certain Americans would not have to compete with foreign workers. Isn't that only fair? Alan Greenspan testified to Chuck Schumer, April 30th, 2009, about comprehensive reform. He spoke about illegal immigration, and I wish I could have the time to read all this, but I'll tell you what he did say about high-tech workers. And it was outrageous. He said that the people with PhDs, MBAs, computer scientists, biologists, chemists, all those people, he said they're making too much money. He said they're getting a wage premium that we could eliminate if we could bring in thousands of talented foreign And in so doing, we would greatly reduce inequality in wages between Americans with skills and those with lesser skills. It was a call to communism from the guy that was running the Federal Reserve Bank. Think about that. Think about that. How insane is that? So, and by the way, you have the chutzpah, as we say in Brooklyn, to refer to America's high-tech workers as the privileged elite. The guy with mansions all over the world, and a particularly large one, from what I've been told, in the Hamptons, has the chutzpah to refer to solid, middle-class, hard-working, talented Americans as the privileged elite. So now, this goes to this, and then I'm going to tell you about the lies that are being told, and then I'll open it up to questions. I hope no one's sleeping here. I don't think anybody is. So, here we go. Although there is evidence that some land and sea border entries of terrorists without inspection occurred, these conspirators mainly subverted the legal entry system by entering at airports. In so doing, they relied on a wide variety of fraudulent documents, on aliases, and on government corruption. Because terrorist operations were not suicide missions in the mid-1980s, once in the United States, terrorists and their supporters tried to get legal immigration status. Thank you, Mr. Lawless. Thank you, lunatic. Get legal immigration status that would permit them to remain here primarily by committing serial or repeated immigration fraud, by claiming political asylum, and by marrying Americans. Remember what I told you about the Indians I used to do. Many of these tactics would remain largely unchanged and undetected throughout the 1990s and up to the 9/11 attack. Thus, abuse of the immigration system and a lack of interior enforcement were unwittingly working together to support terrorist activities. A lack of interior immigration enforcement. And what does sanctuary cities do? They impede, obstruct, and interfere with interior enforcement. Think about that. Why isn't this being told from the White House? How persuasive is what I just told you? I continue. Yes. Once terrorists had entered the United States, their next challenge was to find a way to remain here. Their primary method was immigration fraud. For example, Yusuf Ajaj concocted a bogus political asylum story when he arrived in the United States. Mahmoud Abu Alima, involved in both the World Trade Center and landmark plots, received temporary residence under the seasonal agriculture worker program after falsely claiming that he picked beans in Florida. Mohammed Saleh, who rented the truck used in the bombing, overstayed his tourist visa. He then applied for permanent residency under the agriculture worker program, but was rejected. Ayad Mahmoud Ismail, who drove the van containing the bomb, this is for the 93 attack, took English classes, language at Wichita State University in Kansas on a student visa, and after he dropped out, he remained in the United States out of status. Why? Finding aliens who were out of status as part of interior enforcement. And he was able to rent and drive the truck legally. And we're giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Do you know that 9/11 hijackers went all over the country trying to find states that they could gain most easily to get driver's licenses? Virginia hit the jackpot for them. There were other states too. So what are we doing? Why doesn't the president come out there and say these folks are looking for another terror attack? And it's not hard to believe because 53 Democrats would not agree that Iran is a state sponsor of terror. Right? Anti-Semitism is in full bloom in New York. We have a mayor who's white celebrated October 7th. Celebrated October. I'm a Jew, I'm a New Yorker, goddammit, I'm an American. How does that make you feel? This is planned to bring down our biggest cities, is how I see it. I don't think they're expecting billionaires to fork over tax money. They're going to leave. That's how you defund the police. All the money goes away and you say, sorry, we'll have 8 cops in New York City and you'll have bedlam. We're going to do it in Chicago, in Seattle, in San Francisco. We've been told those cities that used to be beautiful, they're garbage dumps. And everyone sits there, I don't know what to do. Are you that stupid? Why is nobody at the White House? Why is nobody in the... why are you calling people illegal immigrants? Because you keep using that word immigrant that they told you to use. They are illegal aliens. And you know who you're insulting when you say illegal, when you don't say illegal alien? You're insulting the lawful immigrants. We need to make a clear distinction between local immigrants and illegal aliens. So if anyone's confused, I'd like to provide clarity. The difference between an immigrant and an illegal alien is comparable to the difference between a house guest and a burglar. How does that work for you? Real clarity. Wow. We don't refer to guys that rob a bank as making an undocumented withdrawal. We don't call a rapist an overeager suitor. So why in the world are we using the term illegal immigrant when the proper term is illegal alien and it's legally accurate? I don't know what network. Well, they arrested him. Baloney, he's an illegal alien. And by the way, do you notice one of the other things they like to say? An asylum seeker. 90% of these people don't qualify. Political asylum is very specific and it's done through international law. You have to have a credible, demonstrable fear of persecution because of race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or political orientation. Not because you don't have a job or money. That would be an economic refugee and there ain't no such thing. Okay? So again, being sarcastic, to call these people asylum seekers is like calling a homeless person with no education and no job an aspiring millionaire because he bought a lottery ticket. Fair? So now, final thing here. Okay. Terrorists in the 1990s as well as the September 11th hijackers needed to find a way to stay in or embed themselves in the United States if their operational plans come to fruition. As already discussed, this could be accomplished legally by marrying an American citizen, achieving temporary worker status, or applying for asylum. By the way, Biden did put everybody into the asylum program, overloaded the asylum. Okay? So it now meant years before their case would be here. And where are they while this is going on? Out there among us. Yep. Right? Or applying for asylum after entry. In many cases, now listen, this is the 9/11 Commission staff report. This isn't my cover. In many cases, the act of filing for an immigration benefit sufficed to permit the alien to remain in the country until the petition was adjudicated. Isn't that what I just said? Terrorists were free to conduct surveillance, coordinate operations, obtain and receive funding, go to school and learn English, make contacts in the United States, acquire necessary materials, and execute an attack. Execute an attack. Why isn't this being read in the White House briefing? Is that a fair question? What did they say in that Paul Newman movie? What we have here is a failure to communicate. Right? We have a failure to communicate. Because I'd like to know how many Americans would hear that and say, my God, that's wonderful. No, they'd say you're crazy. And you know, it's funny, Tammy Duckworth, boy, it is a name, Duckworth. What's a Duckworth? But Tammy Duckworth is complaining that TSA is no longer requiring passengers to take their shoes off before getting on it. But she might be right. I wonder about that. I do. So here's my question. If you're concerned about people getting on board airplanes who pose a threat, why aren't you concerned about terrorists who pose a threat running across our borders, or criminals, or murderers, or fugitives? See, the border wall is never supposed to stop a single person from entering the United States. Think about it. I compared the border wall, and you're going to like my analogy, the rope at the bank that guides you to the next available teller. That's why you have a border wall, so that you have to go through a port of entry. So my question, show me your hands. How many people would get on an airplane and saw a bunch of people sneaking past TSA? Anybody suicidal here? So why on God's green earth are we forced to live among millions of people who evaded a very similar vetting process that we conducted ports of entry for the same purpose, to keep us safe? Undocumented? No, they're uninspected. So write it off as, oh, that's like saying the solution to car theft is when a cop finds somebody driving a stolen car, that's a problem. So if these idiots that want amnesty had their way, you know what they would do? They would re-register the car and the registration and the title in the car thief's name. That was no longer an undocumented car. Does that make any sense to anybody? But you're hearing this every day. And people sit there going, yeah, I guess we have no choice. Baloney. Now, here's the lies. First of all, the people who are here with no apparent history may be terrorists. Terrorists and spies have a very similar MO. What do? They make sure that they keep a low profile, they don't spit on the sidewalk, they smile at everybody, they never get arrested. They don't want you to even notice that they walk by. James Bond wore these amazing suits and he drove these $300,000. In reality, the guy probably takes the subway, wears sweats, or maybe a cheap sports jacket. Somebody once said that an effective spy is somebody who wouldn't attract the attention of a waiter or waitress at a greasy spoon diner. You know what? You can say the same of terrorists. I'm going to tell you a story. It could be the waiter, waitress, or dishwasher who in fact is the terrorist. I got a story for you. Okay? In the early 1980s, the Golden Dove Diner in Staten Island, real place, beautiful diner, we had a complaint that they had hired a bunch of illegal aliens. So we do our investigation, I'll cut to the chase. We arrest 10 illegal aliens. One was an Egyptian kid in his late 20s, physically fit, managed to get away from us, ran into the parking lot, huge parking lot, ran across the hoods, the roofs, under the cars. I don't know how many cars he damaged. It took 30 minutes. We got him. We got him and brought him back to his apartment to try to find his passport. In those days, you arrested somebody, they were gone. There was none of this nonsense where the courts are going to, what do you mean? That was our job. You're here illegally. What do you do with somebody who violates the terms of their visa? That visa is a contract with the U.S. government. Oh, we know. You were just kidding. I went into a gas station. We had a complaint that there was a guy working illegally. So there's a guy on a crawler under a truck on one of those crawlers, right? So I kicked his boot. Hey, get rolls out. Covered head to foot in grease. He's wearing mechanics coveralls. His name is Demetrius. Right there, he was a Greek kid. Turned out that he was a college kid. Did not have permission to work. So when he saw me and my partner and everybody in the gas station was looking, he says, I don't work here.
What are you doing?
I don't work here. I said, people looking for your contact lens, I presume? So I got the owner of the gas station to give me his time card. We used it as evidence. We reported it. Nobody got excited. Nobody fainted. In fact, we had, I'm having a Biden moment, forgive me. Gotta have fun. I'm trying to remember the name of the senator from California who passed away recently. Feinstein, Diane. In fact, I work with Diane's people routinely. It's amazing she has a Chinese spy driving her around for 20 years.
Yeah.
But there was a hearing in 1998, 2 days short of the 5th anniversary of 9/11. I'm sorry, the bombing of the Trade Center in 1998. And it was all about foreign terrorists operating in the United States. Feinstein had 3 ideas. Number 1, rethink that visa waiver program that Reagan foisted on us. I agree. Don't give visas to aliens that come from countries that sponsor terrorism. Sounds like what Trump said. Except it's more difficult now because they've moved to countries all over the world. She worried also about the implications of the visa waiver. And she said, certainly don't allow these people to go to school and learn STEM. We're teaching people how to make weapons of mass destruction. And she cited a half dozen examples. She was right. Nobody faked it. There were no riots. It made sense. This is 4 years before 9/11. Okay? So you look at all that, and so we go back to the diner. We got this guy in his apartment. We're looking for the pet for his passport. Yet we found shopping bags filled to the brim all around the apartment, maybe a dozen bags, with coupons for products he could not possibly use. Women's sanitary products, dog food, diapers, formula. What the hell is this? Oh, the kids come up here and play with it. How do you play with coupons? That was his answer. Well, we didn't know anything. We arrested him, brought him to the office. Bye-bye. A couple of weeks later, I'm watching TV. I don't know if it was ABC, NBC. There was a story. Yasser Arafat had sent a whole bunch of people to the United States to commit coupon fraud. They were capturing these coupons, bringing them to grocery stores that his people had bought, and they were cashing in the coupons. And some guy in loss prevention, smart guy, said, wait a minute, I know what the numbers are, so go along with me. This store is a small store. We only sent them 150 boxes of Cheerios last year. But he cashed in $5,209 in coupons. How did that happen? So they start digging. So they called the FBI. And I reported this to the FBI. I also had friends there, as I said, later on I had a desk at the Bureau. And so they opened an investigation. Do you know how much money the coupon fraud was sending to Arafat so he could hijack airplanes and kill people? $100 million in 1982 dollars. And then, when these pieces of garbage realized they were under investigation, they torched the buildings. People died. People were terribly injured. I don't know if they'd rather be dead or burned, because burn injuries are horrific. And then they got the insurance money, and guess where that went? Back to Mr. Arafat. The guy we arrested was a terrorist. And don't tell me he didn't kill anybody directly. The Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier has about 5,000 sailors on board. A small percentage are pilots. What's the purpose of the Gerald R. Ford? To act as a landing strip in the middle of the ocean to put our warplanes over targets, right? Everybody on that ship is mission critical. Critical mission for terrorists, just like any other enterprise, is money. So the people that make the money, when I look at Somalia, I'm looking at the same thing again. Okay? Am I unreasonable? Am I making sense? Is there anybody here who thinks this guy Cutler's lost his mind? By the way, when people say the problem with liberals is they're always too emotional, they think, well, I'm pissed off. My neighbors died on 9/11. I had a screaming match with the Republican chief counsel of the House Judiciary Committee before 9/11. They said, then what the F is it going to take? Another attack at the Trade Center? That was the Friday before 9/11. I work very closely with them. We work very closely. But when you work closely with people, I believe in telling it the way you see it, and don't pussyfoot around. The stakes are way, way, way too high. Okay? So then they say, well, violating immigration law, it's administrative law, it's civil law, who cares? So I'll give you a story about civil law. Anybody know who Rudolph Abel was? The Russian spy, arrested in Brooklyn, late 1950. There's a very good movie out. I don't like Tom Hanks' politics, I do like his movies. I'm in conflict. The Bridge of Spies is a story about how Rudolph Abel was arrested in Brooklyn and ultimately swapped with Francis Gary Powers. Do you know who arrested Rudolph Abel? Don't go to the FBI website. They take credit for everything everybody does. An immigration agent did. In fact, one of my early bosses was on that arrest team. What happened was the FBI went to immigration and said, we know the guy's a spy, we have good intel, but not good enough to get a warrant. We're still doing the investigation. Can you help us? In those days, every alien in January, if you remember the announcements, had to file an alien address report in the post office. He failed to do it. That made him deportable. He didn't have to behead children. He didn't have to blow up the White House. He failed to meet the requirement of reporting his address. They got an administrative warrant and arrested him. During the arrest, they found a broken radio transmitter that he was using to communicate with a Soviet ship that was anchored just off he was an international water, but he was communicating with them. Administrative arrest. The FBI came to my bosses one day and said, we know there's a guy in New York, we think he's an IRA terrorist. He's been sending bomb components back to Northern Ireland. One of his toys killed a judge and his young pregnant wife. But we don't have enough. Can you do something? So my boss said, can you do something? I said, let's go. My partner and I saddled up. We go to this apartment in Queens, private house. And as we get there, he's walking down the block talking to his friend. He couldn't mistake his thick Irish brogue. And I said to the bureau guys, I think this is our guy. So sure enough, he comes right up to us, walks into the house, we stop him. Turns out he was here illegally. I didn't even have a warrant. Because it's Section 287 of the Immigration and Nationality Act gives immigration agents absolute authority to make warrantless arrests. What do you hear? Oh, they don't have a warrant. I don't need one. I'm an immigration agent. It's in the law. No one's above the law, neither are you. Okay? Well, law gives me that 90% of my arrests are without warrants. By the way, you know what a citizen's arrest is? You can't swear out a warrant as a citizen, but you sure as hell can make a citizen's arrest. No warrant, oh my God. Cops make warrantless arrests. This is just an attempt to stop immigration from doing its job of protecting the American people. This is national security. Why have we never heard that word coming out of the White House? National security. This is dumbasses against and I'm enraged. What do you think of that? Am I unreasonable? So, we arrested this guy, we charged him with the firearm, we found a gun in his closet. Incredibly, he beat the gunshot when we deported him. Barry Scheck from the Innocence Project and the Dream Team was his defense attorney. He told me I was the worst nightmare he ever had to confront in a courtroom, which I was like, but understand the point, warrantless arrest. Moussaoui, the 20th hijacker, went into a flight school in Minnesota and said, I want to learn to fly airplanes on the simulator, but I don't care about landing or taking off. The first time I went up with a flight instructor, Joe can relate to this, I'm looking at this old guy next to me, who would be young compared to me today, and I'm thinking, gee, I hope he doesn't conk out on me. So the first thing I wanted to learn how to do was land an airplane. Do you have that experience? No. I wanted that to get the sucker back on the ground. He didn't have that interest. So the flight instructor said, are you crazy? He said, no, here's $8,000 in cash, teach him. So he called the FBI. The FBI said, well, it's not illegal, but it's crazy. So who did they go to? Immigration. The guy was a citizen of France. The immigration agent figured out that he was here illegally. They arrested him, and during the course of questioning him, he admitted that he was here to participate in the 9/11 attacks. You want to talk to him, he'll talk to you. He's doing life in Supermax. He's not going anywhere. In fact, when I went to Minneapolis, the police there gave me a tour of the jail cell where they held him overnight. It was kind of fun. Warrantless arrest. Now they said there's no criminal charge. Well, I told you, I got re-entry to be a 20-year felony. Visa fraud in conjunction with any kind of a crime is a 15-year felony. If it's drugs, it's 20 years. If it's terrorism, it's a 25-year felony. Is that like jaywalking? Civil? Do you know what the penalty is for an illegal alien with a firearm today? It's 10 years in jail. Okay? And if you are an alien smuggler or a human trafficker, and someone dies because of you, do you know what the punishment is? Life in prison or death. Not significant punishment? Why is there nobody answering this insanity? All we get out of Trump is going after the worst of the worst. Understand the problem. Explain to the American people how this is screwing up the economy, screwing up the environment, undermining national security and public safety, and wreaking havoc with these remittances. Not a word. And then they say, well, if we allow immigration to arrest these migrants, then they won't go to the police if the police are working with immigration. You know, I testified at a hearing to Sheila Jackson Lee. And you know what happens when an alien who's here illegally is the victim of a crime and works with the police? They can get a visa. I had an informant that helped arrange citizenship for him. What do you think of that? In fact, my friends at the FBI and DEA, they have deep pockets you wouldn't believe. They said, you have no money. I had to borrow their credit cards to gas up my government car on occasion because we had no money. Is that the way to run national security? I had a 3-hour screaming match with my boss because they had the wiper blades on my car during a nor'easter at 10 o'clock at night. I couldn't see where I was going. I spent $26 on wiper blades. I went home with laryngitis. Okay? But my friends at the FBI said, we can throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at these people, but your ability to keep them here and give them permission to work is a greater incentive than all the money I could put in his pocket.
Michael?
Anyway,
Why don't we open up and see if we have
sure, let's
two or
do
three
that.
questions?
But I hope I've been thought-provoking. I just want to do one thing as a bit of humor, because I always like to end with a little bit of humor. And I did this when I was doing a speech in Washington. I lived with 3 members of Congress there. I thought I'd have some fun. So it's the similarities between the 2 oldest professions. They both begin with the letter P. Both professions involve lots of people getting screwed. Yeah. In both professions, the practitioners will assume any position no matter how ridiculous, uncomfortable, dangerous, or contrary to common sense, but for the right price. In prostitution, the clientele bring their fantasies that the prostitute tries to fulfill. In politics, the constituents bring their concerns, and the politicians respond by making promises they fulfill by creating fantasies. SVDs can give the clients of prostitutes a case of buyer's remorse or perhaps something more serious, while voters may as well suffer buyer's remorse when they come to find out what their elected official actually does once he or she is sworn into office. Talk about the gift that keeps on giving.
How about that? All right, so unfortunately, over the minute, but we'll see if we can get 2 quick questions in here. Ben has one of the mics, and if you have a question, just raise your hand. Ben will bring you the mic. Okay.
Nope.
Mr. Cutler, thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
Is that on?
Mr. Cutler, thank you. So I was at the Northampton County Council meeting tonight speaking against some of the measures the county is trying to do to impede immigration enforcement. There's a young kid there with a shirt on that said no human being is illegal. You talked about communication. What is our best retort to the t-shirt?
If I got one for you.
Here we go.
And I discovered it while I was taking a shower. I used to put on the radio before we had GPS to find if the traffic was going to be good, bad, or ugly going wherever I was going. So I had the radio on. This was the week after Labor Day weekend. And they were talking about how kids in New Jersey had jumped a fence that was designed to keep people off the beach because there were no lifeguards on duty. And the same CBS station that would never talk about an illegal alien referred to these people as illegal swimmers. I would submit if you can be an illegal swimmer, you can be an illegal alien. How's that?
All right. We have time for one more quick question. Anyone else? Question?
Come on. Someone's got that.
All right. I think we have one up here. Question, please. Just a question. Right over here.
So I think
right in front of your mouth. It's on.
I heard.
This isn't exactly a question. I wanted to tell you an experience my neighborhood had. About 15 years ago, we had a man in our neighborhood who we knew was dealing drugs, and we knew had an illegal cleaning business, and he was paying people under the table.
Yeah.
He wasn't taking care of his children. There were problems in the neighborhood with his kids. And we kept calling. We called the police. We called code
Was he
enforcement.
a U.S. citizen or an alien?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
We called code enforcement. The night he had a bonfire in his driveway. We called the fire department. We called the police. We called drug and alcohol. We called everyone under the sun. One of the neighbors used to keep an eye on him with binoculars. He was the one who figured it out. He was an illegal alien. And
How did he figure it out?
He called the INS, and the INS came out, picked him up, and shipped him back to Egypt.
Well, I just want to tell you a quick story similar because before we wrap up, we had information about a Jamaican drug smuggling operation. And again, this isn't about people from any one country. I arrested an Israeli wanted for murder. We've got to be real clear. Title 8, maybe you want to write it down and look it up when you go home. Title 8, United States Code Section 1182, categorizes all the people that are supposed to keep out for those purposes that we've discussed. We knew that these people were selling drugs to kids on their way to school. They were in the first floor apartment, in an apartment house. They took the lockout. People would shove money in, and drugs would come out. We arrested 6 of these guys. and I looked outside the window, and the neighborhood was out on the street. And I looked at there were only 6 of us in the apartment, and I said, oh my, we didn't have cell phones in those days. I said, well, let's just put our heads down, take these bums out of here in cuffs and get going. So we walk out of the apartment expecting God knows what, and a big cheer went up from everybody. One big heavy-set lady from Jamaica came running up to me and gave me a big kiss on my cheek and hugged me and said, thank you for ending our nightmare. The point is that it's the people in the immigrant communities most likely to suffer the violence of the same criminals they've been running from when they came to America. They wake up into their nightmare, they find them living next door, across the street, or down the hall. And we need to talk more about that, because the most likely victims of these gangs, I don't care if it's Chinese organized crime, the Jamaican drug posses, MS-13, I was the first one to investigate MS-13 in 92 on Long Island. The people that, hang on, I'm sorry. The people that are suffering the most are the people that come from the same part of the world, and they even threaten their family members back home. You go to the police, or you don't take the suitcase to my friend in Chicago, you'll never see your brother again. And they will show them a photograph of their brother. So my point is, there's nothing anti-immigrant about enforcing laws that protect everybody who's here. Bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Butler. So in our shows are put on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Give us a week or two, we'll pop it up. Thank you for making a trip from Brooklyn. Very informative. I'd also like to thank Joe Show from the County and Mr. Charles Bolton for being instrumental in having Mr. Butler. All right, guys, we're going to go real quick with some final announcements. Our upcoming meetings. Berks County Patriots is May 21st. Berks County Patriots with Mr. Dave Giordano. And then we have here, our next meeting will be here June 4th. We're going to do the 50-50 drawing. Do we have a microphone back there? Microphone coming back. Get your tickets out. Also at this time, all the papers in the middle of the table and the pens, if you could put in the middle, please. Help us out, and any last-minute donations we would greatly appreciate. Here we go. If we can have silence, please. The microphone should be back there, I hope.
Okay. Are we ready for the 50-50, April?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The winner is 0712380. 071.
I think we have a winner.
2380, and you win 160.
Dawn, did you get it?
160.
Oh my goodness, again, look at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll close with a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all our guests that came out this evening. Thank you for helping us to be better informed citizens of the United States of America for the Lehigh Valley. We thank you for President Donald Trump and all of our elected officials. Give them the wisdom and the courage to make America great. And we thank you, God, for this opportunity to come together and exercise our First Amendment. Help each and every one of us to get home safe and sound, and have a blessed evening. Amen.
Amen.
And Kathy Gilbert is donating the money back to the Lehigh Valley MAGA.